Good morning. Welcome to Sacred Enzyme. Happy Easter, everyone. I hope that all of you plan on having a wonderful day with your family and friends. So today, I'm going to do a video. I haven't done much content in a while. I've been so super busy with this garden. I'm so serious about this. But today, I want to talk about Odin and Fenrir, and I want to talk about these Norse mythology stories because for some reason, I just keep turning this over and over again in my mind, and I don't know if it's I'm getting downloads in my sleep or what it is, but I've got this dialogue that's going on and on in my mind, and my computer is literally going crazy this morning. So today I want to talk about this and bring it all into one framework. And so it's going to be about cycle changes, about the planets, about what I talk about being Mother's loom up here, her wheel, and what I call the 13th archetype. So I'm not trying to build this whole idea of us being afraid of everything on this channel. We've got to tie on the red thread and ride the waves so we can get through this cycle. And so this is what I want to talk about. I want to talk about our embodiment of the 13th archetype and how all this stuff has just been laid out into the field for us. That, you know, it's Venus encoded. It means we got to bring back the heart space, the creative space. We have to bring all of this back to this three-dimensional space so we can ascend out of this system, okay? So most people don't like change. When it comes down to it, this is what it's all about. People don't like change. They say they want things to change. They say they want things to grow. They want healing. They want a better life. They want out of the matrix, a better world. But when the structure of things starts shifting, people begin to become very uncomfortable. So they interpret it as something bad. But sometimes change is not always about destruction. It's about removing old systems so new ones can be put into place. It's about recalibration, about correcting things. And so one of the biggest misunderstandings that we have in this realm is that people think movement is danger. It's not, guys. It's not. They mistake transition for catastrophes, or catastrophes transition. So they make the mistake that the end of one cycle is like the end of the world. I've gotten a lot of emails from people saying, so what are you saying? You saying the end of the time cycle, we're all going to die? No, that's not what I'm saying, guys. What I'm saying is not the end of everything. It's the end of this cycle. It's the end of the way things have been existing on this particular realm. Okay? So the end of the cycle is not the end of existence. It's the end of the current arrangement, guys. So this is where I want to start bringing in this other stuff, especially, how I'm always talking about Venus. So in addition to Venus, in this video, I'm going to bring in Mercury, because these two carry really important functions when we're talking about our cycles. We're talking about cycles, recalibration, conductivity, and ultimately movement of these cycles and how they're moved along and how everything is pre-programmed on this clock like gears, and it all moves around in a cycle, and everything goes hand in glove together because it's programmed that way to get to an end destination. And I've talked about it being called Mother's Loom, the Wheel of Time. There's 100 different things that they describe this time period as. So let's look at the symbolic qualities of the planet Mercury and the planet Venus. They're not just random energies floating around in a mythological void here. They're representing like particular functions, forms of functions, just like the archangels. They serve as form of functions. This is why they're called archangels. They're archetypal angels. They have a form of function for source. Michael is the protector of man. It goes on and on with all these angels. Just like when you get to Lucifer, energy of archangels is not good or bad. It's energy. It's energy. It's a type of energy. how it is often pixelated and translated into the field, and what's in the field might give you a different interpretation of what an archangel's archetype actually is. But Lucifer is bringing the morning dawn, and it's tied to Venus. And in old times, this was not a bad thing. It's just been that it's associated with cycle changes on the planet, and people don't like changes, guys. And if you try to make people avoid something or not investigate something, you will put it under the guise of being something evil. Evil, just like Adolf Hitler's material. Oh, he's a Nazi, he's a this, he's a that. Don't read that book. Well, why not? Why can't I read the book? Just because somebody's bad doesn't mean that there's not something important that this person might have to say. Or you might learn some knowledge from this person that you didn't know before that can help you bring a better perspective on both sides of the argument, literally. So Mercury is associated with movement, with messages, with exchange, meditation, transmission, intelligence, connection between realms or layers. Mercury is a conductive element, and it's conductive in the sense that it transfers, just like Mercury in a thermometer, guys, just like Mercury in these old world buildings. They were using Mercury as a transfer engine for the archaeology. For the architecture. Mercury was one of the conductors that they were using in these buildings. They also used copper. It carries signals. It helps one thing move to another place. And it's fluid. It's adaptive, responsive, and it's not static. Guys, this is what the whole thing is about using Mercury in Tartaria. They used Mercury because it helped move the process along of the alchemy that they were doing in the buildings. So Venus, on the other hand, it carries themes of harmony, coherence, attraction, beauty, value, right? Relational balance, and the restoring principle. Venus brings things back into relationship. It helps reorganize through resonance rather than force, right? You get more bees with honey than vinegar. Exactly. You want beautiful? Embody beautiful. If you want a beautiful reality, embody this beautiful reality. Venus is not just softness, though. Venus is intelligent patterning. Venus is the force that knows how to bring scattered things back into a meaningful arrangement. So let's think about using our creativity, right? We've talked about using our creativity. How you can take just a pile of something and put it together with your creativity and make a work of art, right? This is what Venus is all about. It's about bringing this creative heart space into the equation, guys, into the equation. And it's represented by copper. So if Mercury is a conductor, a messenger, and a mover, then Venus is the harmonizer. It's the one that helps the pattern come back into beauty and into coherence, guys. Remember, we're talking about the 5 symbol. We're talking about 28. We're talking about the fractals of the universe, right? We've talked about these in the last couple of videos, talking about how this 9x9 system that they talk about in the Tayubian prophecies is also the 9-layered system that they talk about in the Old Norse mythology. They talk about the 9 layers of the world tree, guys. So we got to go back and look at this. We got similarities here. So, maybe we're talking about the same people. Maybe the Tayubian prophecy people, these old, and what we're calling them extraterrestrial, they're just our older siblings that have been around a lot longer. They have went down and then back up. They have ascended into their higher vibrational space. We could be actually fractions of that oversoul. You got to find out who they are. So a recalibration can seem disruptive, guys. It can seem disruptive because, when you get set into your old ways, it's hard to change. It's hard to change. Cycles are not just circles going around and around for no reason. They're functional. They move tension. They build tension. They release tension. They redistribute energy, and they create contrast. They dissolve contrast. They're part of the ongoing process of reality reorganizing itself. So this is the whole thing of a fractal. A fractal just keeps on reorganizing. Okay, so when a cycle reaches its turning point, there's often recalibration, and this is why we have these events that are pre-programmed on the world clock. We have the Phoenix, we have the Leviathan. These are all contracts, and these are all recalibration points on this clock. It's to move us along the cycle, guys. It's all pre-programmed. From a larger perspective, it might be exactly what's needed. Because if you don't have something to move it along, how's it going to get moved along, guys? It's like staying in the 12 by 12 system. It's like staying in a cube. We can't be in a 12 by 12 system. That's a finite, not moving system. We have to step outside of the 12 and embody the 13th. We have to move through all 12 of these archetypes into the 13th archetype. This is why Officius has been removed as the 13th. Because the 13th is the movement outside of the system. It's the inner part of the wheel. It's the outer part of the wheel, guys. Okay? So imagine it being like a tapestry. And I've talked about this as a loom before. Mother calls it her loom. The image of a tapestry on a loom. Okay? You're making a rug. Think about old times when the women would be doing the loom at night. They'd be doing the rug. They'd be making their rug, doing their weaving. So on one side, you got the front side of your tapestry, right? If you've ever sewn or done a tapestry, or if you've ever done needlepoint, you know this. You got the front side and you got the back side, guys. And the front side and the back side look completely different. The front side is all beautiful. You can see how beautiful it is. You can see the intentional image that you're putting on there emerging, right? But on the back, things look pretty sloppy. You got a lot of threads sticking out. You got knots. You got them crossing over each other. The colors seem all jumbled up. There's all kind of a mess on the back side. Okay? But if you only look at the tapestry from the back side, you might think it's nothing but chaos, right? You might think that there's just like nothing to this tapestry. Just got a thumb from Theo. That it's unfinished. That it's messed up. But if you can see the front side and the back side at the same time, right? Because you're the artist doing the tapestry, you can see both sides, right? You know what both sides are. Then you realize what looked like confusion from the back was actually all part of one design, guys. It's one design. The back and the front create one design. Got a second thumb from Theo. So this is where I want to bring in the Norse mythology into this, because it illustrates the cycle in a very powerful way. So we're talking about the figures of Fenrir and Odin. Okay? So in the mythology, Fenrir is a great wolf from Loki, born from Loki the trickster. Fenrir is feared by the gods, not because of what Fenrir did, because Fenrir didn't ever do anything. But they knew what he was going to do. What Fenrir's form of function was. Fenrir the wolf's form of function is the 13th archetype, guys. The 13th archetype. Fenrir's the 13th archetype. And they knew that Fenrir was, so they bound Fenrir. Okay? Again and again, they tried to contain Fenrir, and each time Fenrir broke free. Until finally, they created a binding that would hold. It was something subtle, unseen, and could restrain even him. Okay? But when Fenrir realized that he'd been bound in a way he couldn't get out of, he bit down and he took the hand off of this god named Tyr, T-Y-R, which is Tuesday, which also might be Thor, which is interesting. And there's Fenrir still tied and bound until the cycle is turned. Because in Ragnarok, the great turning of this wheel right here, guys, the ending of this cycle, this is when Fenrir breaks free. Remember, we talked right here about Zalamoxis, the wolf serpent? Okay? All right, so if we step back from this story and we put on different glasses and we look at it through another lens, Fenrir's not a monster. Fenrir is the cycle breaker, guys. Fenrir is the 13th archetype. This is what the wolf symbolism is all about with the primordial earth mother, is that she's telling us that we are Fenrir, guys. We are the 13th archetype. It's a force that can't be contained forever, guys. We've been asleep, but we're awake, right? The bindings don't hold. The tension is not staying confined forever. Fenrir is the symbology of the checkerboard floor. This is the tension that's holding everything into place, because we're in a particle and antiparticle earth right now, where it requires tension to hold everything into place, okay? So this is when the moment of the threshold is reached. And this is when Fenrir, the 13th archetype, busts out of his bindings, okay? He can't be held anymore. So let's talk about Odin. So the mythology, Odin hangs himself from the world tree, Yggdrasil, for 9 nights. 9 nights, right? This is a completion cycle, guys. He's pierced by a spear. He denies himself comfort. He wants to suffer. And so through this act, he gets all this knowledge. He learns the runes and the hidden structure of reality underneath the veil, right? So this is seen as a sacrifice for wisdom. This is what has always been told in every story that I've listened to about Odin. But what if we can look at this a different way? Because this is what I was talking to with one of my friends from the channel this week. I'm like, what if we can look at Odin's story just the opposite? Think about it. What if Odin was not just gaining knowledge, but he chose to fully enter the system by hanging himself on the tree, guys? He put out his eye to become willfully blind. Think about it. If hanging on a tree is a way of anchoring himself into this structure of our reality, okay, he was binding himself to the weave so he could experience it from within. And what if his sacrifice of sight, his loss of an eye, represents a willingness to give up one way of seeing, right? Embracing willful blindness to inhabit another. He wanted to inhabit this realm, or maybe he had to inhabit this realm for the time that the cycle was on the world clock at. Maybe that's the reason he had to do it. He had to do the sacrifice of his sight, his second sight. He had to give it up, guys, and bind Fenrir in chains until the cycle ended, right? When it all goes back, right? But then in the story, it talks about how Fenrir kills Odin. So let's look at these two forces interacting here. Odin represents consciousness entering the cycle. He's seeking, he's learning, he's sacrificing, and he's experiencing. Okay, this is what the three-dimensional realm is about. We've talked about being the sex planet many times before. It's an experience of physicality. Fenrir represents the force that ends this cycle. The release, the breaking point, the moment the structure can no longer be held, guys. So in Ragnarok, Fenrir kills Odin. But symbolically, it's not destruction, guys. It's the completion of our cycle. Think about it. It's the ending of a phase of experience, a moment when what entered the cycle has to move to the 13th. It has to move to the 13th. And between these two, Odin entering, Fenrir releasing, it's the entire 9-step cycle. The nine days on the tree. It's the 9 cycle where we return to Oversoul. So this is the return to the 13th archetype. The 13th archetype is not Odin before the sacrifice. It's not Fenrir at the moment of rupture. It's the awareness that you're understanding both of them. So Odin and Fenrir are basically like mother's loom, looking at the front, looking at the back. Being able to see both sides at once. Operating on the inside and the outside of the wheel. Being the 13th archetype, being the wolf archetype. There are people that are bloodlines that are patterned for this time. There are patterns of wolf archetype DNA and the past. It goes way far back. And a lot of these were the hidden figures. They were the hidden figures between cycles. My family, they were the hidden figures between the cycle. Have you ever heard of Peyton Randolph being the first president? Probably not. Have you ever heard of John Randolph of Roanoke trying to fight the central banking system? Have you ever heard of them fighting against slavery, trying to end slavery? Probably not. Probably not. You know why? Because they were the 13th archetype. They were here to take the 12th into the 13th, but Fenrir didn't get released. The Randolph, the shield wolf, didn't get activated properly, but they tried again with Thomas Jefferson. But Thomas Jefferson, he wasn't successful either, right? He wasn't successful either. In my opinion, and I intend to prove it, he was murdered on July 4th along with Adams. They were murdered on the same day. And this was because they had plans in place. They had plans in place against the cabal. Against the cabal. All right, so it's the awareness of understanding both sides, and knowing how to operate in between them. Okay, why we enter the system, why the system builds tension, why it must eventually release, and how all of it forms a pattern. Okay, so many people are just moving through life right now unconsciously weaving a tapestry. You know, they're still placing threads and shaping the design and contributing to the pattern, but they don't even realize that they're part of this whole picture. They're like what we call NPCs, non-participating characters, non-playing characters. That's ignorance, right? And ignorance is one thing, guys. And ignorance is one thing. But if you know and you're exhibiting willful ignorance, that's another thing. Because once you begin to see this pattern, you're not responsible. This is why when you try to talk to people about what you see, what you've witnessed, the things that you're doing in the other realms, they don't want to believe you. They don't want to hear you, right? They just want to have cognitive dissonance. That's because once you see the pattern, you're responsible. It's about responsibility, plain and simple. 13th archetype is not about awareness, guys. It's about navigating through the system, okay? So, how will I place my thread? This is the question. How will I respond differently? How will I intentionally live within this weave of the loom, of Mother's loom? How will we do it? Because, you know, this cycle is not going to stop, guys. The cycle is going to happen whether you fight it, whether you roll with it. You can make it easier on yourself. You can embody the 13th archetype, and you can envision and create the reality that you want. And it is so simple that we have overcomplicated this whole scenario. We've looked so hard at all of these myths and stories that we can't even see the forest for the trees. But, you know, everything looks real clear for me now. It looks real clear for me now, because it's not a question of whether change is coming. The question is are you going to resist the change? Because the end of the cycle's here. The end of the cycle is here. The back of the tapestry, it can look like everything is falling apart. But from the front, I'm seeing a beautiful picture coming into place, guys. And, you know, the picture is almost over. And it's not escaping the system and escaping this shift or stopping the cycle, but seeing both sides and figuring out how we can navigate through the system, right? And get the planet ascended, because that's what we're here for here. We're here for planetary ascension. We're here for planetary ascension. So the 13th archetype is not the end of the journey. It's the moment you can see the back and the front and realize that they're never separate. That the earth has always been on cycles. The whole universe is on cycles. That it runs just on continuous cycles, one after the other. It's a highly evolved, extremely perfect clock that has gears on it. That every single incident is a gear in this clock that moves the cycle along. It truly does. Every planet has a cycle, and they're all like gears clicking in a motor. They all have their different timing. They're all on different networks. You know, how many days, how many hours in a day, how many days in a year, how their cycles run, how their seasons run. Everything is different on these different planets, but the original program is the same. Their cycles end all at different times. It's kind of like dominoes falling. When they get to the end of their cycle and they're not embodying that 13th archetype, they got to go, guys. They got to go. So this is the way it is right now on our planet. All of the things that are not going to maintain this vibrational space will have to leave our three-dimensional space. And the things that can, we will be seeing. So the more things that you're seeing in the sky, the more things that are being seen through the veil. It's just because the vibration of the planet is changing. We're going through these gears. We're getting to the end, guys. We're getting to the end. And so that's what I wanted to talk about today. I wanted to talk about my interpretation of these planets, the cycles, how Venus, and you know, even the stuff with Nibiru. You know, you've got Nibiru that comes up and it goes around the earth from the bottom over the top and back around this way. It's making a strange orbit. It's different. So we know that Nibiru is bringing some kind of education. And I've talked about this in past videos. That is Nibiru really like Lucifer bringing the morning light, right? Clicking something in the program that's a switch, you know. I think that we have to reevaluate everything we've been spoon-fed because it's all wrong, guys. It's all wrong. And we have to sit and we have to think about things in more layman's terms instead of trying to overcomplicate everything and make it magic. So these beings that were here are not gods. They're not gods, guys. They're just older. They're like our older, more experienced brothers and sisters. They've been around a lot longer. They have a longer age. They have more knowledge and technology, and that's all it is. It's just like when you go see a really good musician, you know that they are doing some kind of tricks. They're manipulating the field somehow, but you don't always see it, but you know it. And it's the same thing. So the question is are we going to embody the archetype? Are we going into Ragnarok? And as the world mother, you know, is the symbols and things that she's been telling me, and the things that she's been telling me, is this all tying into the story of Ragnarok? Because it kind of feels like it is to me. We got these 9 levels of reality. We've got Odin on a tree. I've got this wolf connection with my bloodline and my family names, and you know the different things that they did. You know, my family, they were rabble rousers. They didn't walk the line. You know, they stepped outside of the line. They were the 13th archetype. So, you know, the question becomes, now that you see, how will you weave? Plain and simple. Plain and simple. So, I just wanted to come on and spend a few minutes and talk about my theories on Ragnarok, you know. Ragnarok is coming, guys. Ragnarok is coming. But, you know, the question is have we been interpreting the Odin story wrong? Have we been interpreting this Odin story wrong? And maybe that's why he always has the ravens go and look for his sight, because he willingly gave his up, guys. He willingly gave it up. So with that, when you come and find me, I'll be here, because we're living in the past, present, and the future, all at the same time. Don't forget to get outside today and celebrate Easter. And, you know, Easter is about bringing in the new season of planting, of tending the land, of loving the land. And that goes back to old Norse mythology again, of Asteria, I think is what that goddess's name is. But, you know, it's all about earth. It's all about earth. So I love you all, and I will see you in the next video. We're going to go out and do a quick tour of the garden. So super excited about the garden. Oh my gosh. I'm like besides myself happy with my garden. I can't believe I didn't do this years ago. I have wasted so much time and energy trying to grow outside of a greenhouse. So we're going to go out there and I'm going to show you the greenhouse. I've already got flowers on all my pumpkins and squash. And it's only been like, what, 2.5 weeks, guys? Wild. So with that, when you come and find me, I'll be here. Live in the past, present, and the future, all at the same time. Happy Easter to you all. Don't forget to tell your family that you love them, your friends that you love them, that you appreciate them, and embody the 13th archetype, guys. This is how we're going to make the world a better place, is live in it. So I hope to catch you on the next one. Thank you for watching Sacred End Time. Bye-bye.